Tubers, tubettes, and of course the assorted flavors of crazy people. Baby Mae and I thought we would chat with you a little bit tonight about renting and looking for and the process of finding a house or an apartment, kind of the do's and the don'ts. We don't do videos like this very often because I don't like to give advice. And I definitely don't want you to think that I am because I'm not. What I'm going to try to do is relate what we've done in the past and what we're going to be currently doing in the future and the process that we use to find a place to live. I want to point out real quick before we go any further is that rents recently in the last 6 months to a year have escalated. Inflation has hit the Philippines as well as your home country. And it seems that the average rent, like right now, we're paying about $400 a month for a 3-bedroom house. I think that's going with the dinosaurs. What we've looked at recently and have found is 500 to 600 is more of the norm. So, but that's according to our taste and what we like and where we want to be located. So much of it's got to do just like where you live, location, location, location. How old is it? How new is it? Does it have the amenities that you want? Does it not? There is no Craigslist. There is no Realtor.com. There is no Zillow out here. If I was in America right now and I was looking to rent a house or an apartment, or purchase one for that matter, I could do all the shopping from my living room. I could go on those aforementioned websites plus a plethora of others, and I could zero in on the area, I could zero in on the size of the place, I could see up-to-date photographs of it, I can pick up a phone and talk to a real estate agent or the owner of the place, hopefully get the majority of my questions resolved and answered, and before I left the house, I would know where I'm going, what I'm looking at, what it's going to cost, and all of the details, school zones, safety issues, all that can be Googled. I got news for you. That does not exist out here. You can't get anything done from your living room, is my opinion. You have to get out and just look. My MO, if you will, of finding a place in the beginning, and it worked, was just to get up, get on a scooter, which I'd rented when I first got here, and I just found an area that I liked. And it turned out that for me, I didn't care for the beach. I cared for the mountains. I liked the upper elevations more. So diligently, every day, I drove around, and I wrote down, I don't know how many phone numbers. This is way before I met May. And I would see signs for rent, and I would call, and 9 times out of 10, never heard back from anybody. I would take photographs I would stay on it. Nothing happened. It was the opposite of what I was used to. It was very frustrating. And then one day, because I stuck to it and I was relentless. I was going up and down every street. I was getting lost. I was going here. I was going there. One day, a sign popped up right there at Highland Villas.
Yeah, Highland Villas.
And there it was. And I pulled over, I called, the lady answered the phone. We made an appointment the next day. She spoke perfect English. She was a great landlord, lived there for 2 years. The only reason we moved out was because our neighbor, a guy that moved in, drove us crazy, was the long and the short of it, and I won't give you any more details than that, but it became untenable. And then I moved, and at that time, May was living with me.
Yeah.
And we moved to another complex, and everything was bopping along great there. That one I didn't find. Mark Thornton told me about it. And it wasn't advertised. It wasn't on the internet. It was just going by the proverbial word of mouth. And then Mark and I vlogged about the place, and it filled up. Unfortunately, it filled up with one guy that nobody liked. And eventually, over time, everybody moved out. I won't say it was because of the one guy, but for one reason or another, they just all stopped getting along. We learned our lesson there, not to move into a unit complex. That place had 10 different sets of people. And it only takes one. And most people were cool, got along, but at the end of the day, we lost our privacy. We are moving once again, not because we're having any big problems with this place. In fact, we really like this place. It's very simple, it's very small, it's very inexpensive, but we've had two issues that have come up recently. Mae, do you want to tell them the number one issue why we're leaving?
Privacy.
Privacy.
Yeah.
Once again, that's happened. That's our own fault because we've logged this place about 1.5 years ago when we moved in, and people recognize it. They know us from the channels. They stop by, they say hello, and that's all fine. It's all neighborly and it's all good. There's been 2 or 3 though that have gone past the boundaries of what's the word? Good manners, or respecting our privacy or our property. And so that's been breached a couple of times. We're not feeling that comfortable with it. The other problem is noise.
Yeah, noise.
Yeah. When we first moved in here, it was in the thick of the pandemic. Nobody was going anywhere. So we didn't have, we were in hog heaven. We were sitting here. It was cooler temperatures.
Yeah.
We didn't turn the air conditioner on for the first 5 months that we lived here, maybe once or twice. It was super cool. It was quiet.
Yeah.
Nobody was annoying us. There was no sound. And then in February, they opened up the Philippines, and they pretty much lifted all the restrictions and all that jazz with the quarantines and whatnot. And all of a sudden, our silence was broken. The guy across the street from me, he's a trike driver. And he never drove his trike because he couldn't go to work. It just sat in his front yard. Well, now every morning he fires that bad boy up. It's not quiet. And he's got a kid with a motorbike with no muffler on it. And he comes zooming up and down the driveway every day. There's jeepneys.
Yeah.
There's tourists. There's scooters. There's the waterfall right up the road from us. So it's a tourist destination. And so the traffic is like nonstop. Right now, it's relatively quiet because it's 7 o'clock at night or something like that.
7.
So, it's mellowed out. But during the day, it gets very noisy. And that's generally not a problem for us because during the day, we bug out too. We go into Dumageddon, we go here, we go there, we do our stuff, we do our thing. But every morning, I'm outside at the table, and I'm doing my thing. I'm having my coffee. I'm thinking about things. I'm talking to friends on the phone. I'm answering emails. I'm trying to respond to comments, which I'm terrible at on the videos. And the silence gets broken, and it's a bit untenable. So, and there goes a loud motorbike right now. So, here's the good news and the bad news. We're going to be leaving in about 1.5 months. So if you don't mind the noise, and you won't have any privacy issues if you don't have a YouTube channel, but this place will be for rent, and it should be relatively inexpensive. The rents have gone up a bunch recently, and so what used to be $200 back in 2012 turned to $400 as an average for me, at least, in 2017. And our next rent is going to bump up another $200 to $600, 30,000 pesos per month, and that will include, hopefully, high-speed internet. There are some amenities to the place that are nice to have. They're not necessary for us. So it'll be nice because it'll have a bigger kitchen.
Yeah.
It'll have more outlets. It'll give us a little more room. The rooms are bigger. This is a 3-bedroom. The new place is a 2-bedroom, but the rooms are bigger, so I might actually be able to actually do something with that 2nd bedroom. And it's going to have a wall up front that we don't have here, and nobody will know where we live because we're not going to vlog it.
Yeah.
And It's off a street that I would never find if someone didn't pull me down and show me where it was at. I've driven by the area 1,000 times and never found any inclination to turn down the road that it leads off of and go to and see. And so we went out there a number of times, and it's got the chickens, it's got the dogs,
Yeah.
it's got the cows. That's going to come with the territory. Animal sounds don't really bother me, as long as it's not a pack of crazy dogs. And
Generator.
generator, it's
Yeah.
going to have a generator. So on brownouts, if we need to keep the
Yeah.
air conditioner, or at least the fans going, that'll be there. So that'll be a nice little addition. It'll have a swimming pool.
Yeah.
So we don't use the pool that much, but it's there. It's nice
Yeah.
to look at. And there won't be any yard work, which you've got a lot of
Yeah.
yard work right now.
Yeah.
So at first we were really excited about the big yard, May was, and we had big plans for a garden and all that kind of stuff. And we found out that number one, the soil here is crappy at our house. And number two, every time May would plant something, the chickens next
Yeah.
door would come over and scratch up the seeds. Or the dogs would
The
come
dog.
over, the neighborhood dogs would come visit, and they would chomp on stuff. And so we just gave up on
Yeah.
our whole self-gardening deal. And that was a disappointment. But anyway, and now it's just become like too much, right? The
Yeah.
yard's just, every day she's out there sweeping.
Yeah.
It's our obligation to, and we agreed to this before we moved in, was to take care of the yard. So we got to pony up, $20 or so every now and then, have some guy come out with a weed
Yeah.
whacker and clean that stuff up. And that's no big deal, but again, it's an obligation. What I'm gonna tell you now is that I think moving forward, the reason that I decided to go ahead with this place, even though there were other places that were available, was due to the landlord. The guy contacted me personally, and he said, "Hey man, I'm building this place, and I know you and May, and I would love to have you guys there. You get first choice." He's got 2 places there, and he says, "And I'll use the other one as an Airbnb, and then May can manage the Airbnb." And I said, "Okay, that'll work." And we went out and looked at it, and talking to him, I knew that I would never ever have an issue with him if something went wrong. We would be able to talk about it like gentlemen. If I broke something, I would just call him up right away and say, "Hey man, I broke something. I'll pay for it. I'll fix it, but you know where I need to buy it." You know what I mean? Because he built the place. And conversely, if something goes wrong where something's not working, and I'm confident that he'll be on it because he's got a lot of pride of ownership. And he's kind of building his future here. This is,
Yeah.
for him and his to-be wife and child, they're going to want to have this in the future for income. And then instead of the other apartment being an Airbnb, I recommended it to a friend of mine and had him get with the owner also. And we went out, all 3 of us got together and took a look at it. So we were all on the same sheet of music. And number one, and again, the owner said, "Paul, if you want to pick somebody, that's great." He says, "I'd rather that have the cash flow than the inconsistent cash flow of it being an Airbnb." And he was super considerate. He says, "But I want you to be happy there. I want you to be cool with your neighbor." So the gentleman that I asked if he would like to go there is a guy that I get along with very well. I'll just leave his name out of it. And I think I'm doing him a solid because he moved into a place that the landlord is the opposite of what I just described. His landlord is uncooperative, unappreciative, money hungry, and just not taking care of business, showing no pride of ownership, keeps changing things, raised the rent because he installed an air conditioning unit in the living room. My friend is having issues with mold. He's having issues with humidity in the place. He's having a leak that he's tried to show the guy. And you know, a leak is water, and water will ruin a house and ruin everything and create mold and all kinds of issues. And the guy simply denies that there's a leak there. And so, okay, now he's got mold. He says he feels unhealthy living there. He signed a lease. He's going to honor the lease. He's going to go ahead and pay it up. Fortunately for him, he's in a position to where he can just go ahead and rent 2 places. I think he's going to have 6 or 7 months left. He hasn't lived there that long. But when he first looked at it, everything looked rosy, everything looked nice. I would have made the same assumption, but the landlord would have put me off. That's the difference. In fact, I told him when we were talking about this, he was describing how the landlord was having him sign this certain piece of paper, and he was trying to charge him more for a window that was in a corner or some such thing. I said, I don't like this landlord, dude. I'm not sure that you should pull this trigger. He went ahead and did. He's a big boy. I mean, I'm not his dad, so, you know, he did what he did. I said my piece. And so he's discovered that the landlord was not his friend. And I think that the rest of the tenants that are living there are coming to the same conclusion. And unfortunately for the landlord, this is a small town, and it won't take long for the people that live there that get disgruntled to leave, and people are going to say, why did you leave? And they're not going to be afraid to express why. And so he may have problems in the future. I would never do a vlog and say don't rent here, but it's kind of the, you know, the old chismus deal. It's the old gossip deal. It's word of mouth. It's like a good movie. You know, you don't have to advertise a good movie. Good movies just do great from word of mouth. So that'll be the payback on that guy. And our current landlord is a diamond. She's a nice lady.
Yeah.
Our place will be coming up for rent. If you can put up with the noise that goes by, it's a bargain. And maybe we'll do a video prior to leaving if you're interested in it.
Yeah.
We would stay here. I would put up with the noise. Let me be perfectly candid with you. I would put up with the noise if it wasn't for the privacy issue and people stopping by and the safety factor and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, excuse me, that's us just rambling on, or me rambling on, where I'm losing my voice, about renting. And so hopefully it's helpful. Check out your landlord. There's just driving around and looking and seeing with your own 2 eyes is really the way to do it. It's going to be hit or miss. All right, so anyway, landlord, getting out and about, looking, finding the location that you like, knocking on doors, making friends, asking around. That's kind of the way to do it out here. It's there's no cookie cutter answer to finding an apartment. I will tell you, I think I mentioned it earlier, rents are going up. So factor that into your budget if you're on the way coming out to Dumageddon at least. All right, kids, we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.